We are here with Greg Foertsch, the art director on XCOM 2. So when you have nightmares about chrysalids, he's the man you have to blame. You guys are taking a pretty unique approach with this game. Basically defying video game convention. You're saying you got your shit wrecked the first time around.
Well, that's really because most people did. You know, as we finished EU, we really spent a lot of time looking at what most of our fans had gone through, and it seemed like almost everybody lost. I'm sure some people didn't. I may have lost 3 times, but everybody sort of went through that. It was like a common thread of like when you lost that, and as we kind of started looking at what we want to do next, that kind of came up, and it was like, well, let's take what most of our fans went through and kind of build on that. The other nice thing is it's not linear. You know, it's not a linear history. You never got out of conventional weapons, and so it frees us up to do some really cool stuff later in the game because we're not bound to anything, any of the tech that came before it. So we can do some cool stuff.
Cool. You guys brought some gameplay by? Let's take a look
Yeah.
at it. So I have a few questions. Well, I have a lot of accusations, really.
I was just saying, I have a comment on that. I was one of the people as a fan of the XCOM franchise, and I played the first. I call it the first XCOM, but the first XCOM was, way back in the '90s. So I played the first XCOM. I played it a number of different times running through the campaign, and I did lose, but then I did win. And it's funny because you're challenging now my idea that winning is the default state.
Yeah.
Like that I went through it eventually because I won. Then I thinking, okay, I finished and that's it. But there were many more times that I lost than I won.
But it sort of is the default state, right? Like XCOM's pretty unique in that most people lose, and then for some reason they pick it up and play it again.
Right.
And they'll lose multiple times. They'll faceplant many times, and just play it and play it and play it. And so it seemed like that was a really common thread. And so we're really inspired by our fans and kind of what they went through with the original game and the difficulty of it in some ways. And it was also a really fresh approach. Like I can't think of a sequel that really did an alternate history where you didn't win, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool. And on the dev side, it's really cool because it really frees us up to do some neat stuff later.
Yeah.
Speaking of losing, one of my favorite things to do with XCOM was name a lot of the characters on my squad after my friends.
I did the same thing.
Make them look like me.
Yep.
I think you don't. Maybe you don't specifically owe me an apology, but you owe some of my friends apologies because they would get texts and it would just be, "You're dead." They'd be like, "What happened?" I'd be like, "Well, an alien blew off your brains.
Yeah.
They're gone."
Yeah. A lot of people did that. That's something that was really powerful.
Are we still going to be seeing stakes like that in this?
Oh yeah. I mean, XCOM's about permadeath, right? And squads and soldiers dying, and so yeah, it's gonna be brutal.
Yeah, I did the same thing, and it's like I'm assuming you named at least one character after your wife in there. That's a tough conversation I had to have with my girlfriend. It's like, yeah, an alien kicked in a door and just blew your head off.
I didn't want to send you out there, but you told me that you weren't getting enough battle time, so I had to send you out there.
Our lead producer Garth, he's in the office next door to me, and it was like 5 o'clock one night, and he's playing, and he'd named his soldiers after his mom, one of his soldiers, and all of a sudden you hear, "Oh my God, Mom died," or "My mom died," and like everybody comes like looking around the corner like, "Your mom died?" And he's like, "Oh no, in the game," right? Like, but everybody was like, really concerned, like, "I thought your mom died." But he named his mom one of his soldiers.
See, we talk about like the linear narrative that gets told these. I had another experience with that, the opposite, which was eventually you run out of names as people get killed and you get better at the game. So I started naming after people who were like less important in my life, but then they turned out to be awesome and they were really important to the campaign that I had when I won. So when I'd see them in the break room, I'd be like, "All right," and they had no idea why I had more respect for them.
I just went with the V2, V3. I was like, "This is my friend, V2," and then they die. But if the higher their number was, the worse you knew that they were.
Yeah.
Cloning confirmed for XCOM is what I'm hearing.
Can you tell us kind of what we're seeing here in this gameplay demo?
Yeah, so in the demo, it sets up that, the alternate history is you never got out of conventional weapons, and the aliens they won, and they've taken control. It's 20 years later, it's 2035, and they've been building these beacons, these cities that are beacons for people to come to. They're trying to embrace the human race and show them how benevolent they are. And about 20 years later, you're, XCOM's forming up again, and you're a guerrilla group, which kind of works to the mechanic of XCOM. Like you don't have really resources in the beginning, you're getting resources, and you have a smaller squad size, and so it really kind of nicely fits with the narrative. But yeah, you are now the infiltrator, not the defender. and so it kind of flips the roles, and it's a really unique mechanic. It's very different than what we were used to in EU, and yeah, so we just saw like squad concealment, like that's a new mechanic in the game. So when you start a mission, you start venturing onto one of these missions, and again, this is very guerrilla. Like you're not being seen. You're kind of to move more stealth-like and get to jump on the aliens. So you set up ambushes and you know, in the demo that people were seeing, a double Overwatch shot where you killed the Advent soldiers. So yeah, it's kind of like the major thrust of the story and the premise for what's going to happen. And yeah, and then we got a Viper coming out, our snake lady, and she's super terrifying. She can rip you out of cover.
Because she has a gun, her little T-Rex
and
arms.
she has a very mean gun, but this poor guy, he's gonna get pulled out. So, you know, in XCOM, cover is king, and if you don't have cover, you're in big trouble. So she can basically eliminate whatever you're behind, pull you out, bind you up, and kill you. And so, and then there's a new feature, one of the classes, we've got melee, and so the Rangers carry swords.
That was highly reminiscent of the moment in the trailer.
Yes, it is.
The Viper, yeah.
Yeah, the trailer camera shot is game shot.
I was going to ask you about it. It's one of the main questions we had about the trailer when we saw it was the visual fidelity. Was like, that's interesting. It's like we were saying, like cinematically, is this a big step forward? And then somebody pointed out, he's like, well, maybe that was entirely gameplay. Like that was all in engine, and you're saying it was?
Yeah. So the cameras were like the you know, of course it's a trailer, right? But all the assets in the game were game assets, other than the head. The hair's a little. The heads are a little different.
A little bit of sweetening.
There's a little sweetening in the hair, but everything else you're seeing, all the soldier models, all the enemies, all the environment, and even a lot of the cameras. The Viper bind, like that's a camera in the game.
Yeah, like just watching right there, the way the Viper moved, it looked exactly like it did in the
yeah.
trailer. But I interrupted you about classes when you're talking about that.
Oh yeah, so you know, we saw the melee of the Ranger, and you get a little glimpse of some of the character customization. She's wearing a hood. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do. And the other class we saw was the Specialist. He is the Gremlin drone, right? And so that can do hacking. There's reinforcements that come in now on the map. Advent just dropped in some reinforcements here. They're going to come in and do some damage. And you'll see what the Specialist can do with his little Gremlin drone. Like it's his own personal pet, right? So it's pretty lethal. You know, she didn't fare very well there, but and this is kind of cool too. There's you know, we really wanted to push everything apart. We wanted missions to have different feels, different cadences, and so this is a new mission type, sabotage. And so instead of just killing all the aliens, you're coming out and you're doing something. You have an objective, and the objectives are spawned procedurally as well. So on top of everything else, the objectives change all the time.
And it seemed like there was an event in the middle of a match or a level that changed the map that you're on. Like after they blew up that statue, then there was rubble there in the background as well.
Yeah, well, everything is fully destructible, right? So in fact, in 2, you can even destroy floors and ceilings. But yeah, the Gremlin just hacked it's just about to, he hacked the turret. And so now you've been able to turn the Advent turret against the Advent. And so you can control it now.
I have a concern. Okay, so XCOM is hard. It's supposed to be hard and unrelenting. I had my share of, you know, Iron Man hard runs that ended in tears. But I kind of noticed that there's definitely a snowball effect with XCOM. So I had my sniper, who was basically the only guy that could actually hit people after a certain point. And I would keep that person in the back, had a ghost who could like get up stuff. But one lucky critical, sniper down, mission lost the country, lost the campaign. And it's all down to just like one bad die roll. So I understand there's ways you can mitigate that, but are we still going to be subject to the ruthlessness of the random dice in XCOM 2?
So there's still some percentages and stuff, and it still is XCOM, right? But one of the really nice things we've done to try and mitigate that a little bit is now you can carry body. So she's about to meet a very, very unfortunate end here. And by the way, that's our Berserker, the giant alien. And she is enormous.
Oh.
All right.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So she is brutal. You don't want to get close to her. and she's gonna come over. She, did a little damage. But see, normally in XCOM 1, you'd have to leave her, but now you can pick her up and you can get her off the battlefield.
Okay.
So,
Like before, there was a random chance, not random, but there was a statistical chance that they could be down and you could revive them if you had a medic, or they were just dead instantaneously, depending on how bad the shot was.
Yep.
And now you can carry them off and revive them.
and you get their armor and their guns. You get all that back, right? And so, it's pretty cool. It's a new mechanic. XCOM's about making interesting choices and meaningful choices, and making the choice to pick up your soldier and carry him off the field is again one of those. It's got some consequences to it, but it's an option you can do.
Yeah. I mean, XCOM is definitely one of those games that has prepared you for the brutality of the game.
Yep.
In XCOM 2, or in the original XCOM, they had the first mission where you had all the characters they gave you, and then they all die in that first mission. So it's like they set you up, and then you start customizing characters from that point on.
We try to make it very clear that when your characters die, they're gone, and it's kind of cool. I mean, in a weird way, it sensitizes you to loss, right?
Right.
Like when I play a normal game that isn't XCOM, right? I'm my guy dies, and then I go start at the checkpoint again. Like, who cares? He died.
Right.
When my mom dies when I'm playing, I'm in tears because she's not coming back, right? So,
And you have to rely on Jim from accounting.
Exactly.
That's a name you waited
Shove a
to.
gun in his hand. Get out there and hurt someone.
Go save the Earth.
Immediately goes insane.
What is it?
rookies always investigate, right? You send them out into the field. Bye-bye.
So Greg was talking about it earlier, Lawrence, and James, but it's interesting because I never thought about all the missions in XCOM, even though you would assault, like you would land in the vehicle and you'd assault either a crashed ship or you would be disarming bombs, you're still doing that defensively. So the whole game is like a defensive mindset because you're trying to protect the Earth. Even in those assault missions that felt more aggressive, whereas this one, it's like you're trying to win something back. You're attacking, you're sabotaging. So yeah, it totally flips it.
It's a pretty cool feel. It gives the game a really nice sense. I mean, it's just a different, real big change in pace.
Okay, and don't forget that if you have any questions about XCOM 2, you can tweet your questions with the hashtag RTE3, and we'll read them here. But I have a quick question about multiplayer. XCOM, I don't think, is a franchise that many people associate with multiplayer. My son actually got me into it. He played the campaign this spring and then was like so in love with it, played through both campaigns in XCOM, and then wanted to play multiplayer with me, which was extraordinarily humbling because XCOM is turn-based. It's kind of like chess. I consider it to be a more cerebral game, and he's been just kicking my ass in this. So, and it's like as someone who played the campaigns, I didn't go through the multiplayer. It's a very robust system where you build out teams based on points, and you can select, different characters and everything like that. Can you talk a little bit about XCOM 2's multiplayer?
So yeah, like in EU, you can play with the aliens, which is something I think a lot of people like. So with 2, we're not talking too much about it, but it's safe to say that we're gonna ship with multiplayer. Like you, you'll be playing on maps against people, but the difference is that the maps are all procedural. So your son won't be able to know where things are. It'll change every time you play.
That's up.
So,
I like that.
And just like the maps in the game, it's pretty hard to do bugs because I don't know what they're talking about because it's not linear. It's
right.
not, and it's not a set map. So you got to figure out what's really going on. But yeah. So every time you play, the map is different, down to the cars on the street change. Right. The system's super robust, and you can make it as procedural or non-procedural as you want. Modders are gonna have a field day. I can't wait to see what they do. As it stands, like the game now is entirely procedural. Every map, every mission you go on, the way we've built it, the way we planned it, is that it's entirely procedural. So
modding day one will be available. Mod support right out.
That is our plan.
Oh, fantastic!
So we're shooting for that.
Yeah, I like it's not that too because it's like fighting a 13-year-old is like an Ender's Game, like fighting the buggers. Where one time I beat a match with him where I blew up the cars and killed half of his squad. And it's like that worked once, and I don't get to use that again. He stays away from the cars.
That's why you need mods.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, let's play this new mod. Got like one guy with a knife.
Just you're in a
Oh, sorry, how'd that happen?
You're in a parking lot. That's where you start.
Yeah, but every time he's not going to know where anything is because the levels will change. They'll always be different.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what about there's support for people adding mods in. Is there any plans for, something along the lines of some people who's not as advanced in modding, where like they want to build their own maps. Is that somewhere down the road?
I don't see why they couldn't. You know, we're really going to embrace it. Like,
No.
it's going to be pretty robust. I mean, the way we build maps is actually it's easily digestible for modding. Like people are going to make some really cool stuff. I can't wait. I'm a giant. I love fan art. Like the nothing more that I like, right? And so it just gets you pumped up when you see what people do with them as you get. And so we started making 2. The first 2 things we wanted to do, procedural levels, like unanimously. The 4 of us got in a room, like, what are we going to do? Procedural levels, number 1. Number 2, modding. And so they kind of fuel each other. And but that was really the focus of kind of the goals we wanted for the game.
Yeah, we had any questions from Twitter? Let me see if anybody's done that. While I'm doing that, let me ask you a question. Do you ever consider doing anything like, since obviously we all name characters after people we know, have you ever considered doing something like linking it to Facebook where it just polls your names of your people that you have in your life?
Yeah, we've thought about that. There's a lot of little hurdles in there for that, but the character customization is going to be pretty robust too, and you'll be able to do a lot of things with your characters. So
it's also tough to build something that people are kind of trained not to use.
Yeah.
People tend to stay away from those features.
Yep.
Anybody said one question that came online already is that someone want to know, is there any way, this is from Rob 334241, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, on XCOM 2, do the saves from the first one come over in any way?
No.
Totally new experience.
Yeah, it's a totally new experience.
Okay.
We've also really done a lot to really rebuild the game. It's a completely different system in some ways. The render is totally different. The lighting is totally different. It would be tough to probably pull that over.
Okay.
Actually, you guys have a sweet booth that's actually right next door. I don't understand why it took 2 days for us to get you in here, but you are here now, and actually have this awesome statue. Yeah, you guys can see it now, and it's really evocative of kind of the culture that I guess we're going to see in XCOM 2, the kind of propaganda,
Yep.
the machine that's running, and it's strange because it kind of implies that the aliens understand human culture and understand how to manipulate human hearts and minds already, which is pretty fast. I guess they are psychic, so
We
that
are
probably plays
simple
into it.
beings.
Yeah, and pretty easy to work around. Just one big bronze statue of an alien with a very toned ass, and all of a sudden we all fall in line.
Everybody loves a sectoid ass, right?
Blaine and I actually recreated your statue in a picture right in front of it. They had us do that for the YouTube Gaming Twitter account. And the decision of who got to be the human laying on the ground and the alien did come down to who had the most toned ass. So I lost that one.
Who judged?
Yeah. What's that?
Who judged?
Yeah, they secretly judged us. I don't think they didn't let us know the criteria until after we took the picture. And then I found out about it.
Awesome.
We haven't talked much about the metagame of XCOM, of like actually running the corporation. So in XCOM 1, you had the funding of governments, you had professionally trained soldiers. Now it's a little more guerrilla. So instead of slowly losing territory, now I guess you're slowly trying to win it back. How does the overarching metagame of XCOM work in XCOM 2?
So a lot of that's still in under wraps. We're going to be probably talking more about strategy at some point, probably pretty soon. But your base flies around now. Like you're not trapped in one spot. You've got this giant ship that moves. It's a retrofitted alien vessel, and so called the Avenger. Not after any movies. The original XCOM game had a ship called the Avenger, and so so it really changes how the game works. I mean, you definitely you're moving, you're all on the run, and we'll probably get more into the strategy stuff at some point soon.
All right.
Get another. What's that? Oh,
Twitter time.
One of the things about E3 is you're constantly getting outside stimulus. I looked down to read
it's
this.
rough.
I heard a voice, a disembodied voice.
Well, there's the one where like a lady goes, "Hey you," and you're like, "Oh, every time."
I'm glad
Oh,
that's fooled somebody else because it's fooled me about once every 40 minutes.
do it on purpose. Jerk.
So this is from Sir Monkey Suit on Twitter. So for XCOM 2, I know.
I love the name.
All the other names are taken. He's a great sniper, though. XCOM 2, will the mechs and modified body parts from your soldiers, will that be making a turn that mechanic in XCOM, the new XCOM 2?
We'll probably have to see. There's a lot more to come. Like we're just
Right.
we're very early in what we're showing off. But yeah, I mean we saw the mech from the advent there in the demo, and that is a brutal character. You don't want to be range to tackle that is crazy. Yeah, we'll have to see. Like a lot of the stuff that happened with Enemy Within, again, our game in our heads where we started, it never got past conventional. So it's a chance to kind of, play with the canon of the game. So.
And XCOM is a franchise that's turn-based.
Yep.
And it's one of the few games that's been turn-based that's really survived for a long period of time. I mean, you get games like Civilization, but even going back to the 90s, turn-based was huge with like Masters of Orion and other games, and XCOM was one of those titles. Do you feel a pressure to like try to make a version of the game that's more real-time or kind of pseudo-real-time?
No, I mean, when we make a game, we kind of just, our approach is we want to make a good game.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to be turn-based, right? For us, what we really focus on is the player experience, and so we move the camera around. Like strategy games don't generally do that, right? To our advantage because we are turn-based. So you can take the camera away from the player, and they're not going to get upset because you were taking it away anyway. And so we look for those opportunities to move the camera in to immerse the player, to really make them feel like they're there, to reward them for the things they do, to see their characters they've just built and modified and changed, watch them do something cool, watch them die in slow-mo. It's excruciating, and then we try to really reinforce a lot of the gameplay mechanics, right? Like, so in Overwatch, in the demo, the girl runs across the stage, right? And the turret focuses on her, and you've got that moment of like, oh my God, is she going to get shot? Where you watch it shooting at her. If the camera was up here, you don't get that experience,
right?
And that kind of heart thumping, oh my God, and so we're always looking for ways to kind of transcend, I think, what normal people think of turn-based strategy, and just look at it as a good game, and so yeah, like there's not a lot of like pressure to go real time. I mean, XCOM is XCOM, but yet we're always looking for ways to change the presentation layer a little bit.
And in multiplayer, you can do things that, we compare it to chess a lot.
I love the pure turn-based feel of XCOM. I love it. That's why I keep going back to the franchise. But even in multiplayer, you could do the clocks where you only have so much time per turn, and that's like, once again, like draws from chess as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually have some more questions from the internet. You guys can ask us questions with hashtag RTE3. We've got our social media masters, Joel and Spool, over at the Twitter wall.
Heck yeah, you do.
Yeah, social media master.
Yeah, lay it on us,
So
guys.
yeah, we have a few questions for you guys for XCOM. Jeremy Awade asks on Twitter, if I'm new to the games, should I pick it up now at XCOM 2? How does he get into the games if he hasn't played them before?
So we're changing canon. The story changes a bit. So you could pick it up with 2. I would recommend jumping in at Enemy Unknown, and giving that a shot. I think that's a great place to start, and you'll get a sense of how the game works, the mechanics, and I'm very excited that 2 is going to be even a better experience.
Although that being said, I did buy the entire XCOM collection on Steam the other day.
Yep.
It goes all the way back to XCOM UFO Defense.
Yeah, it was probably like
UFO
25
Defense is
cents,
tough.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Game sales are great.
Yeah, UFO Defense it's funny. I played that when I first started in the industry, and then when we went to start making EU, I went back to play it, and it's kind of like Scooby-Doo cartoons. Like,
yeah.
It's like, wow, this isn't exactly what I rememred.
Right.
Like it's if without having a manual, and it's like there's points of entry that are tough if you didn't play it earlier. There's expectations, I think, that players have now when they go into to have something explained to them, and nobody explains anything to you. In
Right.
the game.
It's a
And
manual.
so and we started. That game starts like in the geoscape, right? And you're sitting there waiting for a mission. And that was one of the things. Like as we made XCOM EU, we really were like, okay, we're going to start in a mission, and then we'll take you back so you can start understanding the strategy layer. So that was one of those conscious decisions to kind of make a little departure there. But yeah, I mean, UFO Defense is awesome. It's harder to entry into it if you're not familiar with it.
I had a friend who lost many hours to that game. I used to
Love
work
that
with
game.
back in the .com era. So.
I love that game. The coolest part is like when you see a sectoid coming out of the fog, and you can start to make them out. And like, it's amazing that a 640 by 480 game is that terrifying. It's sprites, right? It's like a couple of pixels, but those little aliens coming out of the fog and just like kind of blending in. I mean, it's moments of terror in a game that is that old is just super cool.
Yeah.
All right, our next question comes from @KirkyLife. He wants to know, why was the decision made to make XCOM 2 a PC exclusive, and are there any plans to bring it to console eventually?
So right now, we're really focused on delivering the PC product, right? As we sat down and decided what XCOM 2 was going to be, we really wanted to focus. The very first thing I said, like I said, was procedural levels. The second thing was modding, and we have a history with modding on PC in the studio, and that's kind of our bread and butter.
Yep.
And again, at the time we made the decision, it's not a proven modding community on the consoles at the moment, and so we really wanted to focus on delivering that. That was something that we knew our fans wanted, hands down, was procedural levels and modding, and so that was kind of where we went with that. But right now, we're focused on the PC version and trying to make just an amazing experience on that, and we'll see.
All right, well, Greg, I think we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering all of our questions and inflicting us
having
with
me.
countless hours of torture.
What about
November?
any indication of release date? When?
Oh, yes, XCOM is scheduled for November 2015, so it's right around the corner.
Great.